quorum is present. Senate Bill 2420, Senator Wiggins, you introduced this bill. Would you like to see if you can get it out of committee?
Cut to the chase, Mr. Chairman. Yes, thank you very much. This bill is modeled after a bill we passed last year for military families that was trying to cut down on the red tape and allow them to get the medical services that they need. What this is doing, and we've had in not only down on the coast, but a couple other places for nonprofit mental health centers, due to COVID and other places, they've been trying to get social workers, and I heard of one incident where they tried to get them from Meridian, and they were being held up because of the bureaucracy and the red tape. And what this is doing is allowing or directing that the board to issue a temporary license for anyone who's certified as a social worker or marriage and family therapist, and which will allow them to come and do the work. And the practice is, or the temporary licensee will be limited to a nonprofit health or family counseling. We all know the incidents of mental health that we've had to deal with, and this would help these nonprofits to get the counseling, to get the practitioners there to provide the counseling that's needed. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. If not, Mr. Chairman, I move title sufficient do pass.
Motion is title sufficient do pass. Are you ready to vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes have it. Senator Wiggins, you're a very good advocate. Senate Bill 2746, Senator England, would you want to explain to us what led you to introduce such a bill?
Thank you, Chairman Bryan, for recognizing me from the distinguished position on the top of the dais there. I appreciate it. So Senate Bill 2746 is a very simple, this is a very simple one-page bill. You'll see what it does is it would require the Department of Health to collect information or to make available information to certain physicians that has to do with Down syndrome. So if a person, an expectant parent or a new parent, receives a diagnosis that they are likely to have a child with Down syndrome, this would then require that physician to provide this information. And it's obviously a point in time in these parents' lives when they have a lot of questions, and this will help them out. The information that they will be required to include is there on lines 28 to 30. That would include physical, developmental, educational, and psychosocial outcomes, life expectancy, clinical course, and intellectual and functional development and treatment options. There's no penalty in this. There's nothing other than just an information to be provided to these individuals, and it's a pretty simple bill, and I think it would do a lot of good for a lot of parents and expecting parents in Mississippi.
Question, debate, motion. There's a motion, title sufficient to pass. Are you ready to vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 2750 is a bill introduced by Senator Harkins, and I'm one of a number of people taking up for Senator Harkins today. You know he's gone. It takes several of us to replace it, as you can tell. Pharmacists right now have the ability to prescribe certain drugs or to dispense certain drugs if they have a prescription or a protocol with a doctor or someone else who can prescribe. This is now limited to manufacturing concerns, big employers, places of business where the pharmacist would deal with the people there. What the bill before you does is simply remove that restriction from the places of business and makes it generally applicable to all pharmacists. Senator Blunt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the way I understand it is all we're doing on line 231 is deleting the words in an institutional setting. So it doesn't change anything, it changes where they can do it, and that's all the bill does?
That's my understanding.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a motion? Oh, I hear a motion, title sufficient, do pass. Debate, ready to vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes have it. Is Senator Blackman here? I'm hesitant to go forward. I put Senate Bill 2411 on the agenda because it had been reported to us from the Housing Committee. But I was hoping that Senator Blackman would be here too. One possibility is the
Mr. Chairman, I have a motion.
yes.
I think we should add a reverse repealer and move it forward.
You know, I was about to say one possibility would be to pass it with a reverse repealer. That would send it back to the Housing Committee. The legislature, the Senate will convene at 4 p.m., at which point Senator Blackman can call a meeting of the Housing Committee, report it out with a reverse repealer, and it'll get on the Senate calendar.
She's on her way.
She's on her way?
Yes, sir.
5 minutes for a full professor. 10 minutes for an associate professor. And the whole hour for a teaching assistant.
Substitute motion.
I withdraw my motion.
I should have said something to Senator Blackman about this, but it's deadline day, and it's been a difficult 12 months. I'm not the chair that I once was, let me tell you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
you know, I'm just seeing this bill for the first time, but I can tell you that homelessness is a severe problem, certainly here in the capital city. We see more and more homeless on the streets, panhandling and at the intersections, asking for money. It is a real problem for businesses that are trying to conduct business in a lot of these towns, but particularly here in the capital city. I know that this is something that's severely needed. And since Senator Blackman is walking in the door, I'll let her, if she can be recognized, Mr. Chairman, finish with the explanation of her bill.
First of all, Senator Blackman, I'm sorry I did not tell you about this. I only noticed the doubly referred bill recently, and I wanted to get it on the calendar so you could discuss it with the committee. As it stands now, Senator Horn is speaking in favor of the bill. So you could let him continue, or if you feel that's dangerous, we could nip that in
I
the
trust
bud
him.
Nip it
and let
in the
you
bud.
speak in favor of the bill.
I trust him.
I'll defer to Senator Blackman, Mr. Chairman.
But Senator Blackman, in all seriousness, if you would,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know how much he has said, but we conducted hearings across the summer, and 3 days of hearings, in fact, and as a result of those hearings, we deduced that there was a serious homeless issue across the state, and rather than try to tackle the state, we wanted to do a pilot project. And in the pilot project, we identified 4 areas. And the municipality in those areas would take abandoned homes or buildings and convert those to use for the homeless. And that's basically an explanation of the bill. If there are any questions? If not, I move.
We have a motion entitled sufficient to
Oh, I'm
pass.
sorry.
Senator Blackwell. Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Who's paying for all this? And do you have a cost estimate?
Since it's a pilot project, we could establish the amount of monies. And I believe it says that it will be, that the program is going to be established in cooperation with federal agency programs that are already targeted to assist homelessness. And the Mississippi Home Corps gets some monies, and a lot of other, the City of Jackson gets some money, direct monies. And so the Department of Human Services would coordinate establishing these
So,
pilot programs.
so are the taxpayers going to have to foot the bill for any of this in these 4 communities?
In these what?
Are the taxpayers going to have to foot any of the bill for these shelters?
We would like for monies to come, since it, again, it's a pilot project. If it's $1 million, if it's $2 million, the state can't afford that. We have over $350 million already above the elbow, above Sunny Die. So this could be monies that can come from the Budget Contingency Fund.
I'm kind of thinking that, if the taxpayers are going to be paying their tax dollars for this, that they ought to have a say if it's something they want to do. And how long, I know you got a 3-year pilot project, so I guess that sets a limit, but with a number of these things that we do, there is no limit. You're not going to move everybody out once you put them in housing. So I'm just curious as to, where are these modular buildings going to go, or these rehab homes? And I guess you're furnishing electricity, water, furniture. What's all included in the package?
Well, that would be a determination made by the Department of Human Services, and it would be great if you could provide these services. In the hearings, we found that there's a big problem for homelessness. And a lot of times, these are individuals who serve their country, and a lot of times, these are individuals with mental problems. And so one way or the other, they're going to be on the backs of the taxpayers. So with this, we are trying to be proactive and address a situation, because with this pandemic, the hearing showed that there are a ton of individuals, whether they are black, white, red, yellow, young, old, in all parts of this state. And all we're trying to do is, in this little instance, create a pilot project to see if we can address that. And in those hearings, it showed that you had to have a holistic approach to dealing with them. So we hope that with this pilot project, that all of the entities that can provide some services can come together to try to address a need and address a situation.
Is there any work requirement?
If you can get them to work, do that. No, it's not.
I have a suggestion
Yes,
for the
sir.
committee. This proposition is limited to Jackson, Canton, West Point, and Moss Point. I'm guessing that the local governments in those areas would be interested in the proposition. For some people, it's hard to imagine, but there are some people who are employed who are homeless. They've got in a position where they don't have any cash, you can't come up with money for a down payment to rent, and there are really more circumstances out there than you think of at first blush. Usually programs like this have some provision about being subject to appropriation or whatever. I observe that this is a mandatory provision rather than a permissive one. I suspect there are funds available separate and apart from anything the state might come up with to pay for at least some of the proposals. I don't know what private sources might be available. So my suggestion to the committee is, as a practical matter, being as it's this late on deadline day, this bill is going to be at the bottom of the calendar. And I expect that if the committee asks Senator Blackman to do so, that before calling this up on the calendar, she and the Housing Committee might be able to provide some more specific examples of what might actually take place on the ground. And I'm just reluctant to try to send it back to the Housing Committee or get into anything too difficult this late in the day. But I think there's something to be said for, just out of respect to the Housing Committee and their work, to put the bill on the calendar, and let's see what sort of floor amendment we might come up with that could both resolve some of the, I think, legitimate concerns that members of the committee have, but also accomplish the Housing Committee and Senator Blackman's effort to figure out something concrete we can do to alleviate at least a portion of these projects. Senator Parker, did you?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator Blackman, for your work on this. And, you know, we've got several bills and issues going this year that deal with not necessarily homeless, but other issues that have kind of popped up here. And I applaud you for your work on this. I've had conversations this year with DHS, and in one committee meeting, I shared that I asked if they had any wiggle room in their budget for this year to do some things for the food need, and I was told that they did not. And then I learned later that they had some TANF funds that we've allocated an increased amount to, and a reserve amount there that, if my memory serves correct, has somewhere around $16 million in there. And after that particular committee meeting, I was speaking to Bob and just asking what are the provisions to be able to access some of that money that's sitting there. And so my question, my comment would be, you know, would you be willing, because I'm continuing to try to work with DHS on this, because I think, you know, a number of us are trying to kind of figure out where some of the federal money kind of sits and where some of our problems from the past have kind of arisen. But I think if this does move forward, you know, I'd love to kind of talk with you about a way where we can kind of just get some information on them about how they can either get some grant money or they can free up some of their existing resources where we can address these types of things without having to, you know, put this as an extra burden on our appropriation chair. You know, so would you be willing to just kind of sit and brainstorm that a little bit if we do move forward on this?
That's great, but I don't think you can use TANF money for housing. I don't think.
And you may be correct, you know, but there may be some grant money there And if you already know that DHS does not have any resource available to do this, and then we're placing a mandate on them to do it, then my concern would become that if we put this in as a mandate on them, would that not potentially take away from their ability to work with us on the food needs, which is a huge issue across the state. You know, so I'm trying to find a solution here that addresses your problem, but also, you know, kind of gets into their accounting and their appropriation a little bit more.
Well, that goes back to what I was saying about this holistic approach. So obviously, if they're homeless, you know, they need food as well. So, yes, I'd love to work with you.
Thank you.
Senator Horn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the Department of Human Services and the TANF program has more flexibility than probably any other federal agency of funding that comes from a federal agency around. They can essentially establish, you know, any programs that they so choose. On top of that, the TANF program always has carryover dollars that go from one fiscal year to the next. So they're, without a dime of state money being spent, they could fund this pilot. In addition to that, the Home Corp has a program called the Housing Trust Fund. It generates a $3 million budget every year, and they often have trouble spending that money because it's required that it go towards special needs and mental health focus. Mental health service and counseling and whatnot is one of the services that they've been mandated by the federal government to do. So I think the sources for funding are out there within our state agencies, but do not involve state dollars. They would be all federal dollars. In addition to that, the city of Jackson is an entitlement city itself, and it gets its own allocation of dollars for housing and whatnot that can be used towards this program. That's one of the cities that's mentioned in here. So I think that we've got sources of funding, and finally, on top of that, Kellogg's focuses right now are on early childhood education, health parity, and workforce development and income parity. So, and I know, having had conversations with Kellogg, they're also concerned about the housing and homelessness issue in the state. So I think we've got the source, have enough sources of funding that we can fund this program without it burdening the general fund or any other program of the state that's generated by taxpayers in the state.
Anyone else? We have a motion, title sufficient to pass. Are you ready to vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. It appears the ayes have it. It appears the ayes have it. The ayes have it. We'll report that to the Senate. I want to thank the committee for the committee's hard work. It's been, in all seriousness, difficult dealing with the virus. I think we've all sort of done the best we could. And I hope to see you again in a couple of weeks when at least some of us will have had our shots.
Roger.